I personally use spice due to my anxieties and coping in prison. Not having a release date and things like that is quite hopeless, so I find myself using it to kind of cope. I've seen it ruin people's lives in terms of physically and mentally. It causes mass panic, mass anxiety, I need it, I need it, I need it.
It's a horrible drug, man, and it's, you know, I've never seen anything like it, you know what I mean? And, you know, they call it different names, but you know, they call it Mamba, Spice, K2, but for me, you know, it's the green crack, you know, because it is very highly addictive, do you know what I mean?
When was the first time you had it?
I seen me mate from Chester Stee and he said, like, I've got a bit of spice here, Mamba they call it. And then he's gone, yeah, try that behind your door. I only had 4 drags, there was 7 of us in the pad. I've gone from now I am to like that within seconds. And I'd only had 4 drags. And then as soon as I got up in the morning, the first thing got my head, have a Mamba, get the Mamba, just after 4 drags. And they say your first drag could be your last.
I first tried spice when I was a YO, and it was a new legal high. There wasn't much hype around it. It was, oh, it's a 2-minute buzz, it's not gonna do much for you, and it's very much like cannabis. And I naively took some from a friend thinking, oh, it's just gonna be like cannabis. And it wiped me out. It absolutely took my head off. It made everything disappear. I didn't care. I didn't even know who I was. I couldn't tell you my name. I couldn't tell you anything. Before you know it, you're a 2 spliff a day man, and then you're a 3, 4, 5 spliff a day man, and then you're a 20 pound a day man, and then you're a, oops, addiction.
I was sentenced to a life imprisonment in 96. Now I could have been out in 2008, but then I started smoking spice. You know, in the last 4 years, it's starting to grip, do you know what I mean? And it's really bad now, you know what I mean? I think, you know, my worst experience was, you know, I had once, I thought I was gonna die, you know, and that really scared me. But the madness of all that, you know, 5 minutes later, I was smoking again. So it doesn't deter you, do you know what I mean? You know, even though it scares me, you know, and even it scares me when I smoke, because every time I put a spliff, you know, in my mouth, you know, I know, you know, I'm dicing with, you know, something serious could happen here, do you know what I mean?
My worst experience was a week ago. I got a particular strand that was very powerful. Then I don't know what happened. Woke up in hospital. It's like being unconscious. You're not fully aware of what's happened until later on when you get feedback. Like, they was going to resuscitate me. I was going to die. People were fearful that I was going to die. And it didn't scare me enough. I came back to prison, having got through it and recovered, and I'm okay now, you know, back to prison life, back to the grind. And straight away used again, and went straight under again, went into a code blue again. Only this time there was a medical response, no hospital required, as I hadn't taken as much as the previous time. Dragged off the floor and brought back out of it, yeah. I was rock bottom, and I knew I was rock bottom, but that just spurred me on to use more.
What was your worst experience on it?
I jumped off a fence in prison off the exercise yard to get the spice, I did. Broke 12 bones. And I still smoke it. It's daft, isn't it? I had 4 operations, done 4 months in hospital, and I'm still smoking it. I don't know what it is, I just can't kick the addiction. You know what I mean? It's like 8 years down the line now. And I hate smoking it. I'd just sit there with anyone, they'll give me it, and I'll be like, oh, I shouldn't have had that, I wish I never had it. But I'm not strong enough in there actually to go, nah, get lost, I don't want it.
See a way out of it?
Nah. Don't think there's a way out. Yeah, in a coffin. I'll be honest with you, in a coffin, I think. I'm just stupid, I am. And addicted to it.
There's never enough spice. There is never enough spice. Just like there's never enough heroin, there's never enough crack, there's never enough spice. I've previously experienced a feeling of dread. What if the person who I usually go to doesn't have any this time, who then has got some? What am I going to do if I don't have any and I've got to go behind my door, I've got to bang up, I've got to do 8 hours behind my door, rattling without anything? What am I going to do? And it brings it's a very stressful, panicky situation to be in. It involves a lot of emotional exhaustion. It involves a lot of physical exhaustion. It's an obsession and addiction, yeah.
It's like, you know, being a heroin addict, you know, I've rattled, you know, to no sleeping for 2 nights, sweating, jumping in a shower, you know, to fill that hole in my back, do you know what I mean? Yeah, I've been there, I've done all that. But with spice, I have never ever seen a drug like it. I understand fear today, you know, what it's like to be scared, you know, because of, you know, I'm being bullied to do things that I don't want to do. But I know, you know, things are getting too much now. You know, I'm getting really uncomfortable, you know, with my associates. You know, things I'm doing, you know, I'll never be released, you know. I've been away 23 years now. For me to get out, you know, I have to change that. But I can't see the change. I think it's, you know, making me depressed. Suicidal thoughts. If I carry on the way I'm going, you know, I could be dead this afternoon. You know.
I've seen the best of men, yeah, just go to nothing, just straight down, getting as if they've been stamped all over and then picked back up and said, get on with it. And they're just walking around like that, they can't do it.
Anybody thinking about having it for the first time, what would you say to them?
I wouldn't go near it, honestly, I wouldn't. It's just too addictive, emotionally and mentally.
What would you say to anybody seeing this, thinking about trying it for the first time?
I say think again, you know, because they don't know what they're getting into, you know what I mean? Because, you know, it's you know, once you start, you know, it'll be, you know, it'll be hard to, do you know what I mean, stop, do you know what I mean? Because, you know, that's what addiction means, you know.
What happens if Gary stays on it?
Gary's going to be in prison for the rest of his life, and he'll probably keel over.
And what happens if you get into recovery?
I have a good chance of, you know, getting out of prison, might live longer, you know. And there's a lot of things that goes with that, you know. You know, I'm fed up with spice. You know, I'm just sick of being sick. You know, I feel sick, man. You know, I've got butterflies, you know. You know, I'm uncomfortable, man. I'm scared. You know, I'm searching every day. You know, how can I get off this?
I think the help's out there.
Yeah.
And the change has to come from inside.
Yeah. I need to be brave and say, look, you know, I'm scared, I need help. But, you know, till, you know, I be true to myself, you say, you know, enough's enough. Which, this is where it's leading to, you know, this is, you know, how I'm feeling today. So hopefully, you know, walking out of here today will give me that bit of confidence and say, do you know what, I've had enough. And hopefully, you know, I can come back in 2 years and say, do you know what, I've changed it. You know, I'm not that person I was 2 years ago. And that's my dream goal. I'm going to do it, man. I know I'm going to do it. You know, because, you know, not only, you know, am I doing it to get out of prison? I need to do it for my health and me, innit? That's it. That's all that matters, is me. Nothing else.
Is that it, yeah? Wow, really.
Double shot that. Very cool, apart from that.
Today, I haven't used anything for 3 days now. Thank you, thank you. Every time I wake up and I want it, I remind myself of the times when I've looked at other people and seen other people running around and seen them after a few days and seen them after a week and thought, wow, well, he's all right. And he's doing all right now. Those guys are fine now, they don't touch it now. They're sweet because they've got over the rattle, they've done it. So that kind of spurs me on to just go, one more day.
Tony, we interviewed you in January. What's happened since?
Decided to sort my life out, you know. I had a real bad scare. I ended up waking up in hospital, kind of giving me the kind of the kick up the arse I needed. I think I had to believe in myself in order to make things happen, rather than looking at it as like a clinical aspect, like stop taking drugs. How do you do that if you don't believe you can? I deserve better for myself. I am worth it, you know.
When was the last time you took some spice?
So March, April, May, June, coming up to 6 now, yeah.
Well done.
I know, man. It's been hard, trust me.
So how would your room look back in January?
Back in January? Wow, there wouldn't be anything in there. Anything. Empty, there would be no tubs, nothing to eat, nothing to drink, no sauce, probably not even a kettle, I've solved that. Food, shower gels, juice, clothes, trainers. Everything you see now, gone. Bare minimum. Whatever you're entitled to as a prisoner, that's it. Nothing else. There's no limit onto what it will take from you. It will take everything from you. When you stop, you get it all back. It's so rewarding though, getting it all back.
What do I think is in spice? One, it's called fish food, you know, cockroach pellets, you know, some sort of liquid, you know, detergents and all sorts, do you know what I mean?
From what I've heard, they've got stuff like cockroach killer and rat poison and all kinds of stuff in it.
It's impossible to know exactly what's in it because the batch changes all the time, so it's made up of different ingredients.
Alley wheel cleaner, cockroach killer. I don't know apart from that, like.
I imagine that if it kills cockroaches, it can't be any good for us, knowing that the cockroaches can survive nuclear fallouts.
Spice is a blanket term which is used to describe a lot of different products which contain a chemical which is known as a synthetic cannabinoid. And these are compounds which mimic the effects of cannabis and they hit the same parts of the brain that cannabis does to produce the similar effects. These chemicals are manufactured in the laboratory. They actually are quite complicated to synthesize and produce. You need a high level of technical expertise. There's probably about 400 to 500 different synthetic cannabinoids known to science, and the actual makeup of those spice products can vary significantly because there's potentially a wide range of different chemicals that can be put in, but also the potency can vary significantly. So the concentration of the substances, and that can lead to a very, very dangerous, almost Russian roulette scenario where individuals just don't know what potentially they're taking and how strong the substance is.
What I can say is that there's very little research on these drugs. They were tested, as all drugs are tested, in normal volunteers to see if they're safe, and they weren't. There's so little knowledge of them. They could be affecting hundreds of our chemical systems in the brain. So what we're looking at here is an MRI scan of a brain. So this is a slice through the head. So we're looking down from the top. This is the front of the brain, it's the back of the brain. And the yellow and red areas are areas where there's increased activity in the brain following the drug. Now in this case, this drug is skunk. So we haven't been able to do synthetic cannabinoids and probably never will because we don't know if they're safe to give to humans. So this is probably the best we can get. And here you see there's this very massive activation in the back of the brain here. This is why they see hallucinations. This is why they go into this strange state of dissociation. This is perhaps why they start hearing things. And then here in the front, you see this, the front of the brain is also overactivated. And that explains why they get anxiety and maybe why they get seizures. One of the most horrifying and remarkable and unexpected effects of these new forms of spice is that people go into what they call a zombie state. It switches off their consciousness completely. And so they actually don't know who they are, they don't know where they are. Sometimes they can't even stand, other times they go stiff. We call it catatonia. And in a sense, their body gets so overwhelmed that it can't work, and they either collapse or they get locked into this situation. So we think it's probably something to do with the dopamine system in the brain. As you turn on dopamine more and more, eventually you get to a state where there's too much dopamine and you're either manic or you're paranoid, because dopamine drives paranoid thinking. But what they seem to do is disrupt brain function extraordinarily. The impact on the brain is so powerful that people don't remember what's happened. It's like a state of extraordinary intoxication when people are so drunk they don't remember committing crimes or having fights, etc.
Spice is usually found in prisons in two different forms. The first form is a form that's very similar to what we see on the street, which is a smoking blend. So this is when the chemical has been basically mixed with an inert vegetable matter, and then it's dried out, and then it's just rolled up with tobacco and smoked as you would with a joint. The other form of spice is what we call spice paper. So this is when a piece of A4 sheet or something like that has been impregnated with the chemical, and then it is then cut up into credit card sized portions, which are then sold for significant profits within the prisons. Normally the concentration, which is shown by the orange colour on this sheet here, would be uniform across an entire sheet of paper, and that unfortunately is not the case. What we have seen is that the concentration of the active drug can potentially vary across the paper. So it means that if potentially each of those squares or those credit card sizes has a different concentration of the drug, and therefore potentially could be more harmful if it's potentially a much more higher concentration.
It's very clear that people become dependent or addicted to spice. When people go catatonic on spice, they're affecting the dopamine system. The dopamine system is also strongly implicated in, for instance, addiction to things like crack and crystal. The brain doesn't like to be in a state of such a disruption, so that when you stop using it, you go into withdrawal. And the potency of spice means that the receptors are very powerfully changed, so you get very powerful withdrawal. And you know, people have said it looks just like heroin withdrawal. You get so many physical symptoms as well as the psychological symptoms.
It's almost like playing Russian roulette. Every product, potentially, there are over 400 different examples that are known, and potentially a bag or a batch of spice can contain any of those 400 substances. So what you thought you might have got one in one batch, and what you get in the second batch may be completely different in terms of which chemical is present, but also how strong it is. So this variation of both the chemical makeup and also the potency is really a very dangerous and risky game to be playing.
They might actually have long-term consequences. So even if you get over and you survive the initial intoxication and this sense of dissociation and catatonia, it may end up damaging your brain so that you never fully recover. If you can avoid taking spice, definitely avoid taking spice, because it's very difficult. It's impossible. No, it's not difficult. It's impossible to know what you're taking and what effect it might have.
I only heard of spice when I came into prison on this sentence, and I'd seen what it did to people, and I thought, well, okay, I'll have a go, you know. I did like it at first, but as time went on, I grew to hate it. I started to get a bit worried because what it did to me, it enhances your fears, it enhances your worries, and that was worrying for me in itself, you know. It made me a lot more paranoid, literally holding on to my table in my room, absolutely paranoid, scared, like that. And I couldn't move, and I was just totally in fear, you know, I was in fear. I thought my heart was pounding like I've never heard it pound before, you know. And I thought, this is it, this is my life over now, you know. I thought I was gonna die. It gets you to that point where it controls you then. And that's frightening. You feel scared because you think, my brain needs this to survive. I was totally addicted to spice. I had 3.5 years where I was like that. I ended up being in debt because of it. What made me sort it out was 2 or 3 men on my door.
Yo! Hey! If you get behind the door, blood!
Where's me stuff? Where's me stuff? Where's what you owe me?
Yo, where's the fucking money, blood? Yo, tell him, man. Tell him. Yo, you think you're gonna stay in there for a time, blood?
You know, and I was literally sitting on the toilet trying to hide from the door. Thinking,
What? You coming now, blood? But I'm gonna get you, blood. No matter what, when you go to, I'll get to you, blood. Think man, I'm a dickhead out here, blood.
I can't be giving with this every time, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's something that's got to give. You know, I decided I couldn't carry on like this, and something did give for me, which I'm grateful for. You know, that give was a letter from Birmingham, except saying if you want to, you have a choice to come to Birmingham, and I made that my turning point where I stopped it. I thought, stop smoking, stop taking drugs, complete new change. I left that life behind me when I left my last prison, and I chose this as a new, as a real big turning point and a way forward, and I'm glad I did. I really am glad I did. It was hard. I mean, there've been hurdles along the way, but I had so much of a desire to change that has helped me get through to where I am now. Birmingham has helped by giving me a lot of help, a lot of advice, and a lot of encouragement, and ways and means of filling my time positively rather than negatively. I take the positives from it. Like now, I have my canteen's my own. What I order is for me, not for somebody else. This is what I use for me cooking, all my spices and that. And I'll be cooking a mackerel curry tonight, you know. So yeah, I now don't have any worry about who am I going to pay, you know, who's going to attack me because I haven't paid. I've eliminated all of that, so it's made my jail sentence a lot easier.
How long have you been clean now?
Come the 8th of March, 1 year. 1 year. I feel a lot better for it, a lot healthier, and I've got a more positive outlook on life.
How is your life now you're not using?
In all honesty,
Yeah.
I've swapped one spice for another spice.
What's the other spice?
The other spice is the cooking spice. I like me cooking now. All the things that I couldn't do before when I was in debt. So, you know, I'm slowly learning to cook like I've never cooked before.
How's it taste, John?
So now I enjoy the positive spices. I'm learning that there's going to be a whole new world out there when I get out. You know, a whole new lot of different things that I can do, you know. I'm really looking forward to it. I know I'm going to have a better chance of carrying on the outside, and I hope that someone somewhere out there seeing this takes positivity from it.
So anybody watching this in other prisons or this prison who is going through now what you went through, that, you know, totally addicted to it, hating it, what would you say to them?
make the change, take the plunge, but it's got to come from in there. It's got to really come from in there, otherwise you'll not succeed. You know, the want and the desire has got to be there, and put that into your body. Put that, instead of putting the drug into your body, put the want and the desire to be a clean, drug-free person, and you'll succeed. I've come to the point now where I realise it's only going to keep getting me into trouble. I think there's a couple of ways you can get help. You can either speak to an officer and say, listen, I'm struggling, I want to get off spice, and that. Is there any help available for me? And they will direct them to the peer support groups, mental health, healthcare in here is very good. They have a substance misuse team who are very good, and they will help them and point them in the right direction. You know, so there is help, plenty of help available for people.
Did you ever think you'd get clean?
I never did, no. I never thought I would. I've been on it for 35 years now, and the lecture that I got under the door changed my life. It turned it around, and I know, given the chance, there will be other people that would be the same. So it was a big boost for me, and as I say, I'm now 18 months into that, and I'm really doing well. I've got a really good chance of coming home before Christmas now.
What will you do if you did get home?
Well, I want to give something back to the prison, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some voluntary work in the community and on substance misuse. I think what I've learned whilst I was in Berwyn was brilliant, and I think passing it on to somebody else, a bit of knowledge, hopefully it will stop them from going to prison, you know. So yeah, give them something back to the community from what I took, you know. That's my main goal.